In our field, the types of data and their use cases vary so much that workflows need to evolve constantly. Poly was built to support faster insight generation in biomedical R&D teams. Over the years, Poly has evolved significantly to cater to the growing needs of our diverse customers. Next, we have Dr. Neychelle Fernandez, Director of Solutions and Technical Sales at Elucidata. She began her career as a bench scientist, after which she went on to lead new product development and launches across a variety of medical device companies. Today, she will shed light on what's next on the product roadmap for Poly.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam. Let me share my screen. Hi, everybody, and thank you for attending the data fair talks today and sticking around till the last talk. For the talk today, I'll be talking about what's next for Poly and walking you through our one-year roadmap. A higher level agenda for this talk will really focus a little bit about the challenges in biomedical data management. How does Poly really tackle these challenges? And I'll focus on some of the changes that we are bringing about on the platform this year. And we'll end with the impact on biomedical R&D. So I think a lot of the speakers have actually touched upon this, but it's really important to understand these. What are the challenges in biomedical data management? And we've heard a lot of talks talking about the potential of AI initiatives in drug discovery. But really, in order to unlock the potential of AI, you really need to address the challenges that you're actually seeing across the data journey. So starting with the acquisition of data, really finding the relevant data sets is a very manual and time-consuming process. And I believe Danny and Santa Ana also touched upon this. Generating new data is an expensive proposition and time-consuming. Once you find the data, sometimes the metadata may not be standardized. You may have multiple file formats and varied structures of data sets. So you really have to spend a lot of time and effort in curating those data sets. And very often, users really lack some of the tools that they need to actually structure the data. And as users actually get more and more data and generate more and more data, what really happens is it's really difficult to manage the data that they have. Also with patient data or clinical data, we actually see that managing access to the sensitive data can be very tricky. So in many times, data is actually stuck in silos within an organization, so within a specific team, and is not able to be reused across the organization. And last but not the least, really, downstream consumption today is still a challenge because accessing the data is difficult, or finding and pulling that data out to actually use it is difficult. And integrations with downstream analysis tools has not been straightforward. So how does Poly actually tackle these challenges? So here you see that Poly really has support from an end-to-end workflow for the user. Starting with data acquisition, we have brought about 1.7 million data sets of public data sets onto the Poly platform. And really, the way we've done it is really our curation models and our ability to really automate at scale. Both Maya and AJ actually talked about this in their talks. We really go across 30 different data sources, 26 different data types. We also have access to premium data, which we have in partnership with a data provider. And we also allow users to actually bring proprietary data, curate and standardize, and keep it on the Poly platform. So really, in the data acquisition phase, we really have access to a wide variety of data. We also have curation. We have ETL pipelines that will really standardize and harmonize our metadata, consistent ontologies. So really making findability of this data very easy and very easy to use. Also from a data management perspective, like I mentioned, the data is findable, easy to reuse across the organization. And downstream consumption is also very easy on the platform because we have the ability to actually integrate a lot of downstream applications and tools on the platform. So what are we doing in this one-year roadmap to really augment each of these aspects is what I'll touch upon in the next couple of slides. When it comes to acquisition of data, we continue to add new data onto Poly. And in this one-year timeframe, we will be focusing on the chem informatics data because in our discussions with customers, we've really learned that bringing this data onto Poly will really reduce some of the cost and time that users are spending on some of the high throughput screening experiments in preclinical studies. This we think will really accelerate the search of novel chemicals and users will be able to really understand or get access to a lot of the toxicity and ADMET predictions that they would potentially traditionally do by running some of these preclinical studies. So that's one of the data types that we're really looking to expand and bring onto our platform. The second one is clinical more data to accelerate clinical research. And in this aspect, we're really looking at a variety of different data partners to bring on premium clinical research data onto the platform. Curation. What are we really doing for curation? I think Maya did talk a little bit about the augmented intelligence flow, but I'd like to stress upon this a little bit because I think this is really what makes our platform or what really makes our platform special and distinguishes us from our competitors is the ability to really curate data at scale with the accuracy of a human expert. So we really have manually curated information for few samples where Poly then learns from this manual curation and starts curating the information automatically and assigns confidence to the curation. If it's high confidence, this gets implemented. If it's low confidence, this actually goes to manual curator that looks at the curation that the model predicted, either corrects it or accepts that prediction, and this information goes back to the model. So the model keeps learning and gets better with time. This really, like I mentioned, the impact of using this augmented intelligence model of curation really allows us not just to automate, to curate at scale, but also with the accuracy of a human expert. What we're doing in this one-year time frame is really enabling this for our users. So a lot of users will be able to actually generate ML models to curate data sets automatically by themselves in the future. Another request that we've seen with enterprise data is the ability to curate sensitive data without taking it out of silos. And this poses two challenges really to us. One is, how do you label that data without getting access to the data? And the second is, how do you train a model on this data without taking the data out? And one of the solutions that we're really looking at implementing is the federated learning system. And how this works is you have a federation server that actually is sending model parameters to your specific data stores. So in this case, you have data store 1, 2, and 3. And at each of these data stores, what you're seeing is unlabeled data that is labeled by week supervision. And once this data is labeled, it trains a model locally. Once that model is trained locally, the model parameters goes back to the federation server. At the federation server, you have a global aggregation that happens. Once the global aggregation happens, it actually sends model parameters back to the data store, and this process is iterative. And as this happens, you have the model gets better and learns better, and you have better curation at the individual data stores without the sensitive data actually leaving the data store. So this federated learning system is something that we have implemented a POC within Elucidata, and within this 1-year timeframe, we're really going to look at how do we productize this and bring this onto our platform. Okay, the next, let me talk a little bit about the data management aspects. And I think this is another thing that's pretty critical when it comes to security and access control. Manimala and Reno were really discussing this in their data management discussions. Access control, what we're really doing for access control is we're trying to put into place more robust access controls where you'll have different controls for different users. So for example, if you have an organization with an admin, they can actually set up separate teams with team managers, editors, users, and viewers. So you can actually control. So the admin actually controls the access of the different users. This is really important when you're dealing with sensitive data. And this is something that we're really going to be focusing on our roadmap for Poly. Audit trails is another thing that's really critical, where we're able to really track data sets and their derived assets throughout the entire life cycle. This becomes important again, if you have issues that happen, data sets accidentally deleted, that you need to restore, you need to understand what has really happened to that data set or that sensitive information, who has actually, used it, updated it, changed it. This becomes really important for sensitive data. So audit trails is another thing that we're really trying to put into place. And last but not the least, I think I touched upon this, really being able to consume the data is what most users want. And this is something that we've realized is really critical to be able to really keep users on the platform and engage with the platform. One of the things that we're really doing is enabling more integrations to the platform. And a lot of users have different consumption needs. So it's sometimes very difficult to build maybe more custom solutions for them. So what we've also done, or what we are focusing on doing, is really trying to bring a lot of the open source or third-party applications, or applications that users have already used and are familiar with, to have them integrate easily onto the Poly platform. So we are really looking at integrations with visualization tools like Spotfire, Tableau, and API access to integrate other tools that users are more familiar with. What this does is really reduces the barrier of users coming onto the platform, and also the learning curve that the user has for newer applications is reduced, because these are applications that they are using, in their daily workflows. Another aspect is out-of-the-box ML utility functions for biomarker predictions and classifiers that we're also bringing onto the platform to enable users to do ML workflows. And the last feature that I really looking forward to and really interested in is the search and recommendation feature. When you're on e-commerce websites or searches, you see that people generally, if I'm searching for something, you generally see pop-ups on recommendations that come to you. This feature is something very similar, based on my recommendation, based on my searching of relevant data sets or data sets that I'm really interested in. The system or the platform will actually recommend specific data sets that will help me in my analysis and validations. And really what we're aiming to do with facilitating or improving downstream consumptions on the Poly platform is really this end-to-end workflow where a user, right from the acquisition of data to the consumption, is on the platform. What we think this will really lead to significant time savings for the user on the platform. So to wrap it up, what does this really mean for biomedical R&D? in biomedical R&D, everything is, how do we actually reduce that drug discovery cycle? How do we get to faster target validation and get to the market as fast as possible? What we see is how Poly can really help with this is really based on the analysis of curated data from public, premium, and proprietary sources, really get you to faster target validation and drug discovery. And the impact, and these are assumptions that we made when we think about a mid-sized pharma, where if your drug has a 7.5 success rate, with the use of Poly, you're really going to see a 6-month acceleration timeframe. So really getting a revenue lift of about 4% in your first year, which can be substantial. If you think about a company making 400 million revenue, you're looking at a revenue lift of 15 million. The second value driver is really time saving for your R&D personnel and bioinformaticians that are going to be working on this data. One is really how Poly can help you avoiding additional experiments or generating additional experiments because you now have a lot of data out there across public, premium, and existing proprietary data that you can gain insights from. And you're also spending less time on actually sourcing and preparing this data. So if you're looking at assumptions of maybe 2 hours per month for about 70 R&D member team, you're really looking at a time savings of 2,000 hours annually. So we really think Poly really provides a very compelling value proposition for biomedical R&D. And that was all I had for the Poly roadmap. I'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Neychelle. Yeah, we have a couple of questions. So start with the first one. Can you elaborate more on the way you curate, and can it be done by us in our environment?
Yeah, let me just, can I go back to my slides? Okay, maybe not. Let me see.
I think
okay,
it's because we can see your slide.
Okay. It's not, okay, never mind. So I think I touched upon this a little bit on one of the slides when we talked about curation. Essentially, the way we do this today is we have a few manually curated samples, and then the Poly platform is really learning from this till it reaches a specific threshold where it then begins to automatically curate. Once it hits a confidence, and then it assigns a confidence score to it. If it's a high confidence score, this gets implemented. If it's a low confidence score, this actually goes to 2 manual curators who take a look at what the model has predicted. If the 2 of them agree with the model prediction, they accept it, and then this goes back to the model and the model learns again. If they disagree and they make changes, however, if the 2 curators actually disagree or have a difference of opinion, we actually have a third expert who breaks the tie in these cases. So we have a process that is really set up to enable this curation. And what this process really allows us to do is really automate, really curate at scale. So we're able to really curate a lot of samples at a time with human level accuracy. And the question that you had is, can users do this themselves? We do have a curation app, or we've built a curation app that really helps or enables curation. And this is one of the things that we're really going to focus on in the next year, where we are enabling this or allowing users to do this themselves.
Awesome. And what kind of premium data are you going to be bringing onto the platform?
Yeah, so currently we do have some premium data already on the platform through a data provider, really focused on 3 cancers. One is the triple negative breast cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, and liver cancer. For this year, we are looking to continue the focus on cancer. So we are talking to data providers that potentially, healthcare centers or diagnostics that will expand our premium data in the cancer domain. However, if there's any interest in other disease or indications, we'll, be happy to talk to you and understand some of your needs.
Thank you. And I think we are short on time, so probably we'll stop here. Thank you very much for this talk. Great session. It was a great session, Neychelle. Thanks.
Thanks, Miriam, and thank you, everybody.
Of course.